So I never knew anything about Blue Christmas. I discovered what it is at St. John's Methodist Church in 2009. I was placed there by the bishop, and when I arrived there at the end of 2008, moving into the flat that I would be renting, trying to find my feet in a new city, settling into a new congregation, I was told, Bevan, we know that you're not officially working for us yet because I was a month early. Please consider yourself invited to our Blue Christmas on Wednesday evening. I quickly had to learn that it is actually a Catholic practice and that it is a service focusing on those families who during the course of that year had lost a loved one. And it was a very meaningful service indeed. It was on a Wednesday evening. It was conducted by my colleague, and of course it had dimmed lights, soft music, and the lighting of candles in memory of those who have gone before. As meaningful as that experience was, I knew that there was something missing, something slightly off about the service. And by the next year, as I spent my first 12-month period in that congregation, I had the opportunity that coming December to make some small changes. And so now we have an edited version of the Blue Christmas. I Protestantized it even more, if that is possible. Now Blue Christmas is not only about families who have been bereaved during the course of a given year. It is now a service of comfort for all those who are in a place of struggle and loneliness during the festive season. It is a service directed at tired hearts, frustrated minds, and fearful lives. And so we come with the hype of Christmas already having started, a month, 5-6 weeks ago, here in the Overstrand. We come in the midst of all that excitement and build up towards the 25th to, in this place, find some sacred peace. To be confronted with the reminder that although it's not a happy time for everyone, we can still find meaning in what this season is all about. I found this meme on Facebook in the past week, which I've asked Debbie to put up on the screen. We normally sing quite robustly, "O come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant." It's one of those carols that have never lost their luster. But this morning we're going to nip and tuck the words ever so slightly, and we're going to sing, "O come all ye fearful, grieving and broken-hearted." For it would be an unforgivable mistake of mine as the spiritual leader in this place for us to pretend that there isn't sadness in our lives. It would be silly beyond any kind of belief to veneer over our pain with some marzipan just for good measure. It's part of my pastoral responsibility to hold Advent season in tension for us and to create a space in this place where everybody is safe, where everybody is welcome, and where everybody knows that they matter. And so in this place, in spite of all the excitement surrounding Christmas, there will always be care for those who are struggling. And there will always be a place of belonging for everyone. I try harder than you realize to make this a spiritual home for people. Sometimes I have to rewrite one line in my sermon 10, 12 times because I'm scared that it's going to be misunderstood and misinterpreted. I, every now and then, visit churches. I want to see what the competition offers. No, I'm just joking. Just joking. Sometimes I just pop into other churches to also worship, without the strings attached. Here it's very difficult for me to worship per se because I'm always leading the services. So sometimes I pop into other churches and I can say two things. Number one, their Advent wreaths aren't as beautiful as ours. And number two, thanks to you, Leon. And number two, there have often been times in other churches where I have been made to feel very threatened. And I know sometimes the gospel unsettles us. Jesus' teachings aren't always easy to palate. But there was just sometimes when I worshipped in other churches, a feeling of being threatened and not welcome, a feeling of not homeness. And I never, ever want that to be like that at UCH. There have also been other churches that have just scared the living daylights out of me. You see, I never want you to come in here, and I never want you to, in this hour of worship, feel scared. I want you to feel encouraged. I want you to grow in confidence when it comes to who you are in Jesus. And if anything, I want those who come here limping in to leap out. I want you to go home with your suffering, with your uncertainty, and above all, with your fears having been addressed. If not at every service, then at least at every second service. The amount of work that my office and I put in to make that happen is inconceivable. There is nothing more than my calling is about than to make this place a place where you belong. And so today, when we sing that new version of "O Come All Ye Faithful," there is great intention in it. Sit op my op asseblief left. I want this morning at our Blue Christmas service for the fearful to find a place at the manger, for the grieving to find a place at the manger, for the broken-hearted to find a place at the manger of the Christ. For years and years and years now already, I have not been wishing people a Merry Christmas in December. I unlearned that a long time ago. Simply because I had the rude awakening, maybe 18 years ago or so, I had the rude awakening that it's not a Merry Christmas for everybody. So going around casually saying Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas is just flippant and irresponsible. And so as a shepherd of part of God's flock, I'm not going to fall into that stupid trick. I think one of my first sermons here when I arrived was all about a meaningful Christmas. For in order to have a meaningful Christmas, you don't have to be rich or happy. Have you considered that statement? Have you thought about it and reflected on it for a while? In order to have a Merry Christmas, it sounds like one has to have these two things: wealth and happiness. That's the stuff that makes for a Merry Christmas. But we should no longer be interested in a Merry Christmas. Our focus should lie at this stage in having a meaningful Christmas. And in order to have a Christmas filled with meaning and beauty and lots of love, one doesn't have to be rich. You don't even have to be happy. For the immovable and eternal message of Christmas is not about what one has or how one feels. It's all about what God has done for us in His Son, Christ Jesus. One has to admit that God had the funniest way of accomplishing it. You know, the whole thing of cramming Himself into the helpless body of a baby. The whole incarnational theology. The Word being made flesh, which is going to be our passage we look at later on in the sermon. God did have an unorthodox way of doing it, but we shouldn't question it, for that was God's master plan of salvation. All that we need to do is accept it and say, thank you. Don't expect me in the two upcoming weeks to say to you a Merry Christmas. In fact, if I go there, I want you to call me out on it, okay? Because we've been learning together now over the last 3 years that it's not a Merry Christmas for everybody, but it can be a meaningful Christmas. For you don't need much for a meaningful Christmas. You only need to remember the extreme measures that God has gone to make you His own. I used to try and absorb the pain of my people. I think you know by now what kind of pastor I am. And I feel deeply. And of course, I think it helps a lot, you know, when one has high levels of compassion and understanding. But there's also a downside to it. The downside is that I, almost at any given time, feel profoundly worried about all of you. And that your tears become my tears. I cannot tell you how often I have spoken to professionals to try and assist me with this whole thing. You know, when one counsels people, when one cares for people, one is supposed to have some kind of distance. You know, their stuff is not supposed to become your stuff. Am I right? And in 21 years of counseling, I've got absolutely nowhere with it. I don't know if I'm just a messed up person or if I'm not remembering, Psychology 101 properly, that the college forced down my throat in 2006 when I was doing my BTH. I'm not quite sure if my anger is correct. You know what? I'm actually not even wanting to ask those questions anymore. Today, I want to say to you that it's been so hard over the years, and maybe even particularly this year, to hold that space for you, to absorb your pain, and to carry your burdens. And to be there for you, because you must remember that my ordination vows live inside of me. I never think of myself as not a minister. I'm your minister 24 hours a day. Okay? 365 days a year. So shaping your lives has been my greatest privilege. But it has come with a tax. How can it not? Because I haven't been able to remove myself from your pain. I'm not even sure if that's possible, and I'm not even sure if that kind of ministry would be real. Right? But I feel like, in some ways, I feel like a sponge that has reached its saturation point. And so today I'm going to not try and absorb all the pain so palpable in this place. You know what I see my calling as for this morning? I'm going to point you to the person who can carry it for you. Maybe I was never supposed to be the middleman. Maybe my mission has always been pointing you in the right direction, taking you by the hand and leading you to Jesus. For Jesus did say in Matthew's Gospel, "Come to me, all those who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." He says in John chapter 6, "No one who comes to me will ever be rejected." In 1 Peter 5 verse 7 we read, "Cast all your anxieties on him, for he cares for you." And so maybe I must now stop trying to be strong. Stop trying to be all things to all. Maybe I must stop trying to be superhuman. Maybe I must stop trying to be the hero of Hermanus. Maybe I can just be the one who tenderly points you towards the babe in Bethlehem. He's the one who can restore your broken life. He's the one who can soothe your sorrows and heal your heart and bind up your gaping wounds. He's the one who can calm your storms. He's the one who can help you climb that mountain, and while you're at it, overcome it. In John's Gospel, we read something very important. I can't say that it's a passage that I have understood always. I don't know, have we put it on the screen, Debs? No? Yeah, there we go. In the beginning was the Word. So John's Gospel doesn't have all the romantic stuff like angels singing and shepherds bringing lambs and wise men delivering gold and stuff. His one is very convoluted. Here it is. In the beginning was the Word. So these are the words with which Genesis opens in the New Testament, right? In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. So this is John's way of saying God is doing it again. God is creating a recreation. Okay? Because in Genesis we have the creation story. Here we have the story of God doing a new thing. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through Him all things were made. Without Him nothing was made that has been made. In Him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. This is actually the verse I was after. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never been able to extinguish it. If you remember anything of today's service, this has to be it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never been able to understand it. In a few minutes, we're going to be lighting candles. You can, of course, follow the tradition of the original Blue Christmas, where you light a candle in memory of a loved one. And that's always, always special. But the candles we've got here are not exclusively for that purpose. I want you to light a candle for whatever reason you think worthy this morning. And there can be a whole host of reasons, isn't it? Let this be between you and the God who rescued you. Let this be between you and the Savior who loves you more than you will ever know. Maybe you want to pray for your children. This has been the silver thread that has run through 21 years of my ministry. This is the constant theme in your conversations with me. You are always concerned about your kids. No matter where they are in the world, no matter how well they are doing, career-wise, there's always something about your children which is bothering you. More often than not, the fact that they're living without Jesus. I want you to bring them as you light your candle to Christ today. Maybe there is a regret that you are fighting through. And it's a fight you feel you're losing. Or maybe there is a rejection that you just cannot get over. I'm probably there now that I come to think of it. After 7 years. Maybe that person not wanting you or not wanting to share their life with you or having said no, maybe they have caused such an indelible bit of damage in your life, you just cannot move on. You just cannot rise above that. I want you to light the candle. And I want you to ask Jesus to bring you wholeness. Maybe you have indescribable pain in your heart. Maybe it's something that no one even knows about. Hey? Maybe the pain is crippling you from within, and the last thing you feel like doing is having a Christmas. I always think of that verse written in Psalm 42 where the author says, tears have been my food day and night. There is a slight chance that somebody sitting in this service today might be feeling like that. Is there something that you are worried about? Something which is stealing your joy? Something that is making it impossible for you to have an abundant life? Is there something that you are fearing? We know what fear can do. Whatever it is, I want you to come to the front and light a candle. And I want you to own the candle. And I want you to take the light that it brings for yourself. These candles are small and seemingly insignificant, but they symbolize something larger than life. They represent Jesus, who is the light of the world. The light he exudes is so strong. Revelation chapter 22 says to us that one day when we get to heaven, we're not even going to need the sun or the moon or the stars to give us light. He will be light sufficient. And so I want you to open your forlorn heart to the light of Jesus the Christ. for if there's something that I know for sure, something that I know for absolute certain, which is something that Jesus doesn't want, it would be for us this Christmas to be sitting in the dark. And so as you come to light your candle, may your heart be filled with the timeless truth of Christmas. And that is the truth that God will never turn his back on a decaying world. The truth of Christmas also says that God will never turn his back on a wounded